Hello, this is a Bluthner upright piano just come into stock, so having a look at it to see what sort of work, if any, needs doing to it. And it's made in 1923, 130 centimetres tall. First of all, it's important to know that this piano has 85 keys instead of 88, so it goes up to top A instead of top C, which is not a problem for taking exams if you're worried about that. And in fact, this piano is ideal for study. It has a nice firm weight, and as we'll see in a minute, has been fully restored in a beautiful way. So the ivory keys are in very, very good condition too. I noticed this music stand doesn't have any book holders on it, so you might like to add them, but it's quite thin really, so we supply these what's called cat's clips. If you look on our website, you can purchase those if you're interested, and they're adjustable too, so you can move them in and out according to how wide or narrow your book is, so that's very useful. Now this piano has been fully restored very well, as we'll see in a minute, and the outside of it's been done in a kind of satin finish. I think this is probably rosewood, 1923. Started to use mahogany a lot as well, but I'm not sure. I'm not a wood person, so if you are a wood person, you could verify. I'm sure you could recognise patterns in the wood. Maybe that is mahogany. Interesting to know if you've got an opinion on that. But very well finished off, I think. It's been obviously stripped and left matte finish. We would normally do French polish, which takes about 70 hours on a grand, about 60 on an upright. So it's a very long process and puts a lot of cost on the piano, unfortunately. But this is less expensive, but very, very good finish, I believe. Now this is the legs again. It's very integral. The whole thing hasn't faded at all, so the colour's exactly the same throughout the piano. Now, this piano was restored in 2007. I know the firm that restored it, who've now just recently retired, so that's how we managed to get the piano. It's really grateful to get it. But you can see, if you're a technician, the kind of work that's been done, just everything you should do, from graphiting, as we looked at before. Sorry, I should have mentioned it, but when the action was taken apart, it was graphited. And also, it's important not to make the spring too tight, but just feeling it really does affect the touch if that spring is too tight. But they're just right, the ones I've tested, and the action feels good. And as you can see, parts have been changed, felts and so on, just as you'd expect in a full restoration. So I'm looking at the hammers now, which are actually original. Now this firm believed in keeping original strings and changing the tuning pins and original hammers where possible if they weren't too worn. And I think that's a good philosophy, really. You preserve a lot of the original tone of the piano. See, and the strings have been cleaned up. You wouldn't know they weren't new unless you, well, perhaps you would know, but they're very well cleaned up. And new dampers here. We'll have a look at those in a minute, because this action is remarkable. I've made a video of similar Bluthner, the world's best action, really. You'll see what I mean in a minute. But the touch and the tone, it's just as you expect a Bluthner to be. Maybe lost some of its original, but surprisingly, if the strings, and I don't know if they've turned the strings, because we would do that very often if you keep the originals, tone throughout, as you'd expect a Bluthner to be. Very mellow and yet bright when you need it. We have a similar age Bechstein in stock. This is a Bechstein 8, 1925. Just wanted to compare the tone of it. Now back to the Bluthner. So that's a richer tone, really. Both pianos are very suitable, by the way, for study. I want to make this point that a lot of people want to buy a modern piano for studying, but really, in terms of what counts really is what sounds the piano making. And these pianos, to me, they shine out as being more interesting tone than a modern piano. This is a Mu 48133, just come into stock, which is equivalent really one of the very best modern pianos in the same price range. And back to the Bluthner. And a very rich bass sound too. Now, why do we think this is the best piano action ever made? Well, I just need to adjust the dampers a bit. They're coming off to me very, very evenly. This with the pedals, it's pretty even, but with the keys, to me, slightly late. Otherwise, when you play staccato like that, this one we did do actually, then it hardly pulls off. So let's let that one pull off slightly earlier. And now here's the beauty of this action. As I pull the action forwards, the dampers are still on the strings. Modern actions normally, in fact all the modern actions I know, they have the dampers integral. I suppose this wasn't continued because it was too costly, but we would really like to urge manufacturers to go back to this because it's so easy to adjust anything. So we were talking about adjusting the spoon here to bring the damper off slightly earlier. And by the way, this piano has been very well restored. You can see that it's got new springs here. We've checked the springs as to when they start to be treble springs, and it's about these are middle springs here. They're thicker, and then here you can feel a change. The spring gets slightly thinner, and that's just right. So it's been very well thought out. Anyway, I wanted to mention that this damper it was that was slightly too late. So what we can do is bend the spring, and normally you have to take the whole action out. It's very hard to get to the spring, but if I could just bend it manually, I'll probably bend it too much. But you can get a feel for the springs when you get used to them. Put it back on and let's see what's happened. So that was the E. So I beg your pardon, it was E I was meaning to do, and I did E flat by mistake. So, and you can see the E flat's coming off much earlier, perhaps a bit too early. So take it back a bit. Let's try the. So it was the D, wasn't it, that was needing to be done? Let's do the D. So that's the fourth one along here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and just pull it back slightly. And this one's got too far, so I'm going to push it slightly that way. But it's much more, quicker and easier to get at. So it's very useful. That D then slightly too late. 2/3 of the way to the string is absolute maximum, I believe, and that's dead on. That's 2/3 of the way to the string. So that's the E flat that we just perfected there. So the D. Let's just perfect that one. So again, you just pull the action forwards and see how wonderful it is. If you're a technician, you're probably saying, please comment here, because wouldn't it be great? I don't suppose we can influence manufacturers as much as that, but wouldn't it be great if they made them like that again? It would be wonderful, really useful for the trade. And there we go. So still, once you get used to the spoons on a particular piano, you can get faster and faster, of course. That one's too late, you can see. This one's slightly earlier, and this one's just about perfect. So we'll try and get those as perfect as we can. I just want to make a final comment about this, that the reason we want to get the dampers at 2/3, and this one at the break point here is just about 2/3 compared to this one, which is about half, is that the dampers are you can actually feel them, and this action is very, very slightly heavy. We'll actually be lubricating it, bringing it back to normal. I think it's about 52, 53 grams to bring it down to about 50. This one does feel heavier, so when you've got slightly heavy action, the dampers coming off slightly later is useful. This is a bit on the early side, that one, as you can see. And finally, on the back of the action, you can see that all these springs have been replaced too. Now they need to be at the right tension, otherwise you need to make sure they're correct, otherwise they affect the touch. So we'll be checking all of those as well. But you can see, just have if you're a technician, you can just feast your eyes on this for a bit. See if you agree with me. Write a comment. It'd be really useful to hear. And as I say, it'd be wonderful if, to me, like my mind, if we can get manufacturers of top quality pianos to go back to designing them like this. And by the way, the tuning pins on this piano are rock solid. Replace tuning pins, as mentioned earlier, and rock solid. This will be more stable than a modern piano. I'm absolutely certain of that. So that's a Bluthner upright piano made in 1923 and 130 centimeters tall. Now the video, I've already explained many things as reasons why I really believe this is one of the very best pianos ever made, and tone-wise, to me, surpasses the tone of the modern pianos, and is very suitable for studying. It has 85 keys and not 88 keys, but that doesn't really affect any being able to take exams and so on. Or if you just want to enjoy a really good tone piano, then you won't get better. I've tried to compare it with the Bechstein we have, which is again a really superb piano, very similar age. It's a very good age for German pianos. They're much lesser than you get around the 1900s, much less of the 1920s, but those that exist in the UK are quite superb. We'll have a 10-year guarantee on this piano. We have some minor regulation to do, but the piano has been very fastidiously restored, as I've tried to show in the video. Thank you very much for listening.